would have thunk that the guy who wrote The Curse of Fatal Death, the guy who wrote the brilliant comedic series Coupling, would go on to create one of the most amazing, iconic Doctor Who stories of the modern era? Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron, and these are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. When The Empty Child first aired, I mostly knew Steven Moffat from his series Coupling. It's a brilliant comedy series. If you've never seen it, you should. It's not just hysterical, it is iconic in British comedy television. It's just a fantastic series, or at least the first season and the fourth season are. The second and third are good, but not nearly as amazing as the first and the last. But be that as it may, that's how I knew Steven Moffat, as a brilliant comedic writer with no hint of science fiction in him. Now, I will grant you, after I got into Coupling, I discovered he had written a Doctor Who skit with Rowan Atkinson and a bunch of other guest stars, which was, of course, The Curse of Fatal Death. And if you haven't seen it, trust me, take the 20 minutes, search YouTube for Curse of Fatal Death, and enjoy 20 minutes of brilliance with Rowan Atkinson and Jonathan Pryce, guest appearances from Hugh Grant, Jim Broadbent. I mean, it's a phenomenal piece. But again, it's played for comedy. It's certainly written with absolute love for Doctor Who, but it's a comedic special. It was done for Red Nose Day in 1999 as a charity fundraiser. So it never would have occurred to me that Moffat was a brilliant, dramatic science fiction writer, and yet here we are. The Empty Child is hands down, paired with its second half that I'll get to tomorrow, the most brilliant story of the Christopher Eccleston era, and one of the great stories of the modern Doctor Who era. It introduces the endlessly quotable meme of the child in the gas mask saying, "Are you my mummy?" It introduces Captain Jack Harkness, who, yes, as everyone who recently has been watching WandaVision knows, Captain Jack Harkness got his last name from Agatha Harkness, who nobody except comic book nerds really knew until just a couple of months ago. But in any case, this story is just brilliant and inventive. It's a historical set during the London Blitz. It captures a particular moment in time. It examines a lot of the complexities that happened during the 1941 Blitz, when England stood up to the Nazi war machine. And in many cases, people paid a terrible price for standing up, but ultimately were victorious. The story examines the children who should have been sent away to the country, and most were, but some were left behind on the streets of London, left to fend for themselves, living rough, as they say. The remaining families inside London trying to maintain some degree of normalcy while then rushing to their bomb shelters during the raids. It is a pivotal moment in history, and this is one of the things that Doctor Who does so very well and why I love the show. But then to layer on top of that the pure nightmare fuel of the child in the gas mask saying, "Are you my mummy?" and physical injury as plague, with so many other people contracting the identical injuries, which makes no sense. It is the stuff of pure nightmare, and it's brilliant. And this right here is exactly why Steven Moffat went on to become the showrunner after Russell T Davies stepped down. But that's a few years away. Now, one interesting tidbit about this story, and it's not the story itself, it's how it was presented. You see, back in the two-parter story about the farting aliens of Raxacoricofallapatorius, there was widespread criticism of the fact that at the end of the cliffhanger in part one, they ran immediately a coming next week preview before the credits rolled and spoiled a lot of the things that would come up in the next episode. And people watching it had no chance to avoid it. It was literally, bam, big moment, here's what's coming next week. And people complained vociferously. And so, with this story, the next two-parter to air, the story hits its cliffhanger, then the credits roll, and then at the end of the credits, the preview of the second half of the story comes. thus giving viewers the opportunity to turn it off or avoid the preview, or at least much more easily. And it's an interesting concession in real time as the show was airing. That's a standard that has been kept pretty much ever since, and good on them. So that wraps it up for the first half of this story. Tomorrow is The Doctor Dances, with one of the other most iconic quotable lines in modern Doctor Who history. We'll talk about that tomorrow.